Come on, big dog. Starting this leg day with some less exciting stuff. Starting off with the adductor, 2 sets of like 12 to 15, and then we'll take some partials on the last set. And then we're going into a hip thrust, a bit of ab work. Then we'll get into the like more fun stuff. Oh, you know when I train Scott with this, he calls this one the bollock crusher. Ain't wrong, is it? So within adductor, I think it's a neglected area when people train the legs. If you want thicker legs, especially look from the front, if you build your adductors up, you're going to look a lot bigger there. So I typically do these at the start of the session, just because if I do them at the end, like with the abs, I can kind of half-arse it. So I just do it early on. Also as well, like if I'm battering my adductors first and then go into my main compounds like a pendulum, leg press, I'll then use less load on that, which I see as a good thing because it's kind of less stress on my joints, which I'll touch on a bit later in the video. Don't film this. Go on, Shagger. Yeah, next exercise, we've got the glute drive. So the reason this is in my program now is because I've noticed with my posture, which I'll speak about again a bit later in the video, I do have not like a massive problem, don't get me wrong. I've noticed I've got a slight bit of anterior pelvic tilt. So the reason for that is slightly tight hip flexors, and I think the main reason is that I don't really do any kind of glute work anymore. So if you think about all my squat variations I do, it's very quad dominant, hack squats, pendulums, and I don't do any direct glute work. So I took deadlifts out of my program a while ago because of kind of the upper back shoulder issue I've got. So I actually think it's that my glutes aren't like awake. So yeah, the plan is now doing some hip thrusts until I can hip hinge again and actually kind of help with the issue I've got. Yeah, buddy. Here we go. Can't go for a kick.
Why not?
Come on. Think of the bunda, man. Let's go. Yes, come on. Easy. Come on, then. Suita, let's go. Some tips for glute training, specifically the hip thrust. Okay, you'll notice when I do it, I don't sink really low down. The reason being, what's going to happen is my knee's going to flex more. The problem with that, obviously a lot more quad. So I kind of get to the point where, not that my knee is completely rigid, allow a bit of movement, and I'm just trying to keep the tension on the glutes. So I kind of find my range, and I come up, I'm trying to think about like tilting the pelvis. So my cue I like to think in my head is like pushing my lower back into this pad. Like if you're thrusting up and you're arching your back, you're not getting nowhere near as much out of your glutes. With foot placement as well, it is going to depend on the individual. So for me, if I go too low down, it's way too much quad. If I go way too far away, it's like more hamstrings. And a lot of people feel that way. But if you're getting a better connection with your glutes by going a little bit higher or a little bit lower, then just go with the position that you're feeling your glutes. I also think about kind of externally rotating my feet a little bit, just like 10-20 degrees. If I go quite straight, I feel my quads. So it's a bit of trial and error. Ab crunch then on this new machine, this hoist ab crunch. Never used this. These machines are quite strange because everything moves as you do stuff like the chest press, you press, and like the whole machine moves. It's quite weird. So yeah, let's see how this is. By the way, do you like my new drip? This is from Firebox. They kindly sent me this out and plenty of other clothing as well, which I'll show you in a bit. But if you look at it, yeah, it's actually really like nice fitting. So it's like kind of fitting around the right areas. Quite baggy here. Like I like this design where it's like longer at the front, a bit of like a curved hem there. Don't know, I feel dripped out. What do you reckon, Em? Something that I've neglected over the years is, well, I've always relied on just being lean enough to see my abs, whereas now I actually train them so that when I have more body fat, you can see more. So yeah, something I don't neglect now is my ab training. I do this probably 2-3 times a week. Oh yeah. Quite warm, Em. I don't know if I'm dripping of sweat or dripping of drip. What do you reckon? Yeah, I am a drip. Come on, here we go. Just a quick shout out as usual for Protein World for always keeping me stocked up with my supplement needs. We've got some whey protein isolate here, some concentrated whey. We've got some pre-workouts. If you want any of these kind of products for 40% off, you can use my code PWBRAD. Hey?
Any more for any more?
Any more for any more? What's that mean? think I need a wee. Last time I weighed myself on these scales, I was like, was it 75 kilos or 77, something like that? What am I now? 83.4. About right, my morning weight is like 82, isn't it? So. With a leg extension set, what I do is set the seat the whole. So at this point in the session, as you can hear, the audio, well, the mic's just basically disconnected and you can't hear me. So I'm going to have to do a voiceover for the rest of this section of the video. So with a leg extension, what I'm explaining here is basically I'm just allowing myself to get a bit more stretch in the quads. How I'm doing that is by basically aligning my knee in line with the center of the axis of rotation. I'm putting the seat the whole way back, so I'm really leant back. That way I'll get more stretch on one of the heads of the quad, the rectus femoris. So it really improves internal feel, gets more stretch in the quad. It feels very good, generally just feels a lot better for me. You'll notice as well, I actually use straps to pull myself in on the handles just to stabilize my hips. That way I can generate more force and therefore more mechanical tension on the quads. Also as well, another tip that I did speak about is that if you're someone like me that's had a knee injury, so for me, when I played football when I was like 9 years old, I had a bad knee injury. 10 years later, I had to have surgery, like cartilage removed, loose bodies, ACL, it was a bit of a mess. So for me, my knee isn't great. So what I do to manage that is with a leg extension, I actually have, where the pad goes on my shin, I set that the whole way to the top. That way, that does feel a bit better for me. So if you are someone with knee issue, then that could be worth a go. After the leg extension, we then went to do a seated leg curl. And I don't know what it is. It might just be me, but I just don't fit well on that machine. It just feels not great. So the only way I could somewhat feel okay on it, obviously it wasn't great at all, it was just okay, I just leant over just to stretch the hamstrings further, being in more hip flexion, and I was then able to get a little bit more out of the hamstrings. So just did 3 sets with that, 10 to 15 reps. I like to go high rep sets with pretty much all of my leg work now. And then after that, we went into the main compound. So a big difference for me at the moment, what I'm doing, I'm actually I've took my knee sleeves off. I actually think that the knee sleeves, although they aid me moving more weight and it makes me feel a little bit safer, I actually think it's making my knees weaker. So I've actually ditched the knee sleeves and this actually felt a lot better. So you'll notice that every rep I've got a nice slow eccentric, I'm pausing at the bottom, spending time in that stretch, and for me I just get a really good internal feel with my quads doing this, and it's obviously way less injury risk, which for me, the main objective for me is to get a good stimulus with the least amount of stress on my joints to stay safe. 3 sets with this leg press, and because ideally I wanted to use the pendulum, I got in the gym and realised, they don't have the pendulum anymore. So we just did 3 working sets of the leg press, tapering the weights, the reps up. So basically just dropping the weight each set. And then for the last exercise, I actually did a Smith squat, just as like a finisher kind of thing, like a high rep set, 1 all-out set, and just, got a really good pump in my legs. That was the end of the workout. Right, quickly before I go over my injury update, I'm just going to give a shout out to Firebuck for all this clothing they've sent me, because it is actually genuinely wicked. So this quarter zip pullover top, like the fitting's really good, like tight-ish, well not tight, but fitting in the right areas, loose where you want it to be. Material sound just genuinely really nice. This is a polo shirt, again fitting's really good, like fitting around the right areas and like kind of not really loose but just a nice fit. I don't like clothing that feels tight everywhere. This is just like nicely fitted. The material too is nice, like it's breathable, which is a big thing for me. Anyway, let's get these joggers on. Cargo joggers are on. This is how they're looking. Nice material, breathable, nice and fitted. Yeah, I rate it. So there will be a discount code in the description of this video, so check that out. But let's go over this injury update, which isn't even an injury, but it is doing my head in. Right, with this injury update, the goal is to keep this under 2 minutes, so let's have a go. basically, I have seen 7 or 8 different therapists trying to diagnose me with the issue that I've had for literally like over 2.5 years. It has been driving me mad. Although on camera I might seem quite positive, it definitely takes its toll on me mentally. So I've not been able to train properly for a long time. Basically, the issue is, I'm really grateful I found this guy that's been able to kind of pinpoint exactly what's wrong, and now I've got a plan in place to get better. Basically, the issue is my shoulders are like kind of pulled forward, internally rotated, and no matter how much deep tissue work I've done, how much stretching I've done, it's not been able to kind of fix that issue. And the actual other part of this issue is that my scapula isn't rotating the way it should, which nobody's been able to spot before. At the minute, I can't do anything involving scapular retraction or depression. So if you think about all my presses, can't really do it. If you think about rowing, pull downs, it's literally almost impossible. So I get a lot of like neck pain, upper back pain. But yeah, coming back to kind of the actual issue, also with my scapula not rotating the way it should, one of my muscles, the subscapularis, is that right? One of the rotator cuff muscles, that's not doing its job that it should. And basically, because my traps are so dominant on my physique, with certain movements that should be doing, it's not firing, so my trap's doing all the work, and that's kind of why I've got this issue. Basically got to get that muscle firing the way it should. So hopefully with this physio, all my mobility work, yeah, it should get better. By the way, before you click off this video, remember to drop it a like, please. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video.